a network special. The podcast that is all about the golden
Are you okay?
age of appointment television. Stop it, Colin. This is why I can't get through it, because you always interrupt me.
But that one was so... It felt like you were, like, in slow
The
motion
golden
or something.
age of appointment television, where you could, if you wanted to watch something, you had to tune in on the night that it was scheduled to air. But now, with the magic of the internet, you can watch these things again and again and again and again.
Did you memorize it this time?
Yes, I did. No, it means we recorded 2 episodes in the same day.
You're not supposed to give people a peek behind the curtain like that.
It's not the Wizard of Oz.
Yes, it is. I thought that's what we were talking about. You said watch the movie with the Scarecrow. And that's what I watched.
You know what? This is...
it sounds like we planned that and we didn't.
This is so great. We are comedic geniuses.
That was the best. I took improv classes for several years, and that was the best improv I've ever done right there.
It paid off. Tonight, we are talking on our last Halloween episode before the actual event in a couple of days. We are talking about a movie from 1981 called Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. This aired on CBS, right? Is that right?
Shockingly, yes.
You know,
could never, ever. This movie could never play on CBS now, ever.
Well, no, because they're unless Chuck Lorre made it. Right?
This is not exactly Chuck Lorre's vibe, so I don't see that happening.
You don't
kind
see
of does
this movie,
own CBS at this point, yes.
You don't see this movie opening up with a like a remake of this movie opening up with a theme song from They Might Be Giants.
No, wait, They Might Be Giants. What show is that?
Big Bang Theory.
No, their theme song is by Bare Naked Ladies, I thought.
No.
Yes, I promise you're wrong.
We're looking it up.
And
it is.
Everybody needs to go and comment about how Nathan was wrong, and it's shameful that he would get that wrong.
You know what? Thank you, by the way, because all this time, and I apologize to They Might Be Giants, but all this time...
That's not a sentence you've probably ever said before.
All this time, I had thought that they had sung it, and I was so upset with them.
Maybe
I was like, you know what? Like, let them make the money. That's fine. Now that I know it's Bare Naked Ladies, I feel much better about it.
I bet they sang. I bet They Might Be Giants sang the theme song to 2.5 Men that just went men.
No, God no. God no, that would be even worse.
Men, manly men. I bet that's kind of what it would be like. So you could imagine how cool the theme song would be if Chuck Lorre made a version of Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. It would just be powerful.
I would love this now.
And it would be sung by like Color Me Bad or some other bad band.
So so again, I apologize to everyone listening. Hopefully my friend John Warren is not listening. He was the biggest They Might Be Giants fan. If he is, he's rolling right now in his grave. He's alive.
He's dead.
But he died because of that comment.
He died and immediately went into a barrel roll. All in one motion. John, I'm sorry if you hear this with your last gasps of life. I'm sorry that this happened to you.
All right, so, they did the theme song to The Daily Show, right?
I guess. I don't know. I guess I never knew.
I know they did the theme song to Malcolm in the Middle, for sure. We know that for sure.
Is it possible that that's maybe the only one they did?
Yeah, that's
possible. Why do you think they did The Daily Show? The Daily Show is just... There's not there's not words to it, are there?
No.
Oh, they sang the theme to Cheers. That's what it was.
Yeah, Cheers. That's right. Sometimes you want to know. Yeah. They did the Daily Show. They did do the music for the Daily Show. So I was right about that.
That's interesting.
I was right.
You've redeemed yourself a little bit for the ghastly Bare Naked Ladies mistake.
let's see. They did. Yeah, this is a great start to this episode, by the way. Oh, they did the theme song to the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Ooh,
TV show.
What, the one in like the early 90s?
No, the one that's really no 2006.
Can I admit something that shouldn't be admitted, but you just made me think of it again? The first concert I ever went to,
party?
No, yes. Wait, hold on. How did you know that? I'm not joking. Like, hold on.
I know what you're gonna. I know it because. Okay, what I'm talking about, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, is a cartoon with Mickey and Goofy and stuff. When you said early 90s, I knew that you were talking about the new Mickey Mouse Club.
Okay, so the first concert I ever went to, and
Double MC.
Listeners, judge me all you want, but I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 or something. The first concert I ever went to was Color Me Bad, which is something I just mentioned. I've now mentioned Color Me Bad. We've been recording for a few minutes, and I've mentioned them twice. So that's a problem. But that's the first concert I ever went to at the Ohio State Fair, and the act that opened for them was Nathan. Who was it?
The party.
The party. And I bet you and I are the only people that remember that band. I bet there's not even a Wikipedia page about them.
No, they are heavily covered. In fact, they just did a reunion tour.
They're not. No, they did not.
Yes, they did.
I do not believe that.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I was getting all of the ads on Facebook for it.
Oh my God. For anyone that doesn't know, The Party was a band that was just sloppily thrown together. It was cast members on the Mickey Mouse Club that was like, I don't even know what years. I used to watch that in like 1990, maybe 89.
It would have been in that time
91?
frame, yeah. Because their first album came out in 1990.
It was like for people that later
I know a lot about this album.
It was like for people that The Party was like for people that liked O-Town but thought that they were a little bit too edgy and dangerous. So they listened to the. It was crap.
This is no. This album. Okay, hold on. We're detouring on this for sure.
I've stumbled onto one of your weird. Nathan has like all kinds of deep pockets of information, but they'll be on the weirdest damn things in the world, and this appears to be one that we've stumbled upon here.
This is really one that Zachariah should be a part of as well, but I will just tell him of this record later.
All right. I'm sorry that I'm sorry that he can't be here to help with this.
So the all new Mickey Mouse Club was from 89 to 91. And in 2013, the group reunited without Tiffany Hale, sadly.
You said they just recorded or just toured.
No.
It was 9 years ago.
I'm saying they just toured like in the last 2 years or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm saying that they got back together in 2013, and since then they have been together. But they're doing all the stuff like it says here that they opened for this was the show, and then if anyone knows anything about the Mickey Mouse Club, there were tons of like superstars that came from it. You've got like people in Backstreet Boys, right? People in NSYNC.
Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake were on it.
Like Ryan Gosling, I think. Yeah.
He was on it.
Christina Aguilera, like all these people were on there.
Which I watched this show all the time, and I don't remember any of them at all. Like I only remember maybe one. I remember a guy named Chase because I think he was one of the. I think that was his name.
Chase Hampton. Yeah, Chase was the red hair.
Oh my
guy.
God, you don't know that off the top of your head.
I'm on Wikipedia.
You're like, look, okay.
I know Chase though.
I just remember him for some reason. But yeah.
So it was 4 people from the show started a band, and the name of the band I think was a name a band contest was held, and they named it. They named it The Party, and then they came up with a backronym, which is what they call it, which is an acronym you create after you've already named something. Positive attitude reflects today's youth.
Isn't that? Well, isn't that always what an acronym is? Or is
an acronym is if you had like a phrase and then you took the first letter of each one and it spelled out a word, right? Like, so that's an acronym. Anything it could be. It doesn't have to spell out a word. It could just be NWA or whatever. But
it doesn't mean you have to have, like, the way you just said it was that you have to have known what you were spelling out in advance for it to be an acronym.
I'm saying the word for it, a backronym, is an acronym formed from an already existing word.
An acronym formed from an already existing phrase, you mean?
An already existing word.
Right? Give me an example.
So party is an existing word, right?
Okay, got it. I got it.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, like scuba was not a word before they made it an acronym.
So they say that people say that Kiss, the band Kiss, stood for Knights in Satan's Service, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
Is that true? Were they named that because of that, or did somebody come up with that afterward and totally pull a backronym on somebody?
That's totally a backronym.
They backronymed it?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Damn.
So anyways, they and actually they're the first group to sign to Hollywood Records. I love that we're doing this on the Halloween episode. I'm so happy that you brought this up.
It relates so much. I pulled up, since we just in the last second, I pulled up, you're right, there is a Wikipedia page, and I'm trying to figure out if it says anything about, like, the bands they opened for.
Yes, Taylor Dane,
the group,
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, you're right. The group's success landed it opening act spots on major concert tours with the likes of Taylor Dane and Vanilla Ice. That's a great sentence. Because earlier in the sentence they said major concert tours, and then one of the examples they used to prove that is Taylor Dane. Yeah, which is great.
Go.
Major tour.
Listen. I'm not saying that this is a good album. I'm saying it's a great pop album.
You don't have to say it's a good album. Like, you don't have to say if it's good or bad. Everyone knows.
Dr. Dre produced one of their songs on their second album. Teddy Riley wrote 3 songs for the second album.
What?
Yes. Look at this. So what you would have seen is for their second album, because they opened for Color Me Bad, because of Dr. Dre and all these people producing the album. And they were also on an episode of Blossom. Thank God.
All right, we got to stop. This needs to be an episode on our craptastic podcast where we just read random Wikipedia pages. That's not this, though.
No. So all of that to say, all of that leading up to our great movie tonight called Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, which I think I've already mentioned.
I don't know that it actually has been mentioned, but...
How did you get to...
I don't know.
The party?
Color Me Bad. We were saying something about... theme songs that were sung by people.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And for some reason, I use Color Me Bad a lot of times to just when I have to pull out, like, a really old, like, reference of, like, a crappy music act that nobody has, like, fond memories for. That's what I pull out sometimes, and that's what I did. And then it made me think of the tour. Anyway.
You know, we're 15 minutes. We're like 15 minutes in. This is like comedy Bang Bang territory. It was like we're just like or not comedy Bang Bang. The Are You Talking U2? Are you two talking U2 to whatever? This is like that territory. We're just like
I can't remember the name of that because I can't. It's like Are You Talking U2 to Me Too or something. Are you
two talking U2 to me too? Anyways,
but it's about the party.
But yes, so Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, 1981. Let's talk about this freaking movie, which I loved, and you didn't quite love, did you?
Okay, so I thought there was some interesting, cool stuff about it, but it was like the very first 20 to 30 minutes just sort of I didn't love. That's all. I didn't love the conceit of the beginning of it, which you can give kind of the overview if you want.
So, I'll just give you a quick rundown of the plot, and we'll just bounce in and out of it. So basically, a mentally handicapped man is blamed for the death of a little girl, and he is chased down by a vigilante group led by a local town's mailman, and
which is
they they murder him, and then it's revealed that she wasn't actually dead. They killed too soon, I guess, and then these guys are basically hunted down by the ghost of this man. And where the Scarecrow comes into play is he was hiding from them in a scarecrow in a field.
So his name's Bubba.
Yeah, and they and
what? Why'd you act like
that? Just because it's like he could have just been named anything. He didn't have to be named Bubba just because he was mentally challenged.
That's okay. So that's part of it. Is like the way that this whole thing is played is just. It just made me uncomfortable. Like, it just made me uncomfortable. That's all I can say about it. Is it just the way they set his character up, and then this mailman guy, who is played by Charles Durning, who is in one of my favorite movies. He's Pappy O'Dannon in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He's the guy who's the governor.
Yes.
And that's the only thing. I know he was in a lot of other stuff, but that's what I mainly associate him with when I see him. And then so to just watch him as like this character in this movie that's just like just a horrible person. Like from the very beginning of the movie, you can tell he just wants to murder this this mentally challenged guy. It was just so upsetting and weird to watch. And then for it to transition from that into a regular horror film felt weird and jarring to me somehow.
So okay, so yeah, so your main contention with the movie is just the idea of this sad scenario where this gentle, quote, like this is what it's always like. Like whenever there's a mentally challenged person, they're always large but gentle.
Yeah, that's always. He was kind of like almost like a ripoff of whatever, of Mice and Men of Lenny.
Yeah, and he's played by Larry Drake, who was in Darkman, and he's Dr. Giggles, and a couple
he's
other.
He's in LA Law, right?
He also mostly remembered for his portrayal of a developmentally disabled Benny Stolwitz in LA Law.
Yeah.
So apparently he makes a go of doing these characters.
Yeah. Before he ever got to LA Law, he was Bubba Ritter. So yeah, he obviously has a history of playing at least a couple of this type of character. And I don't remember LA Law. I remember my parents, I think, watching it, but it was, a little bit before my time, so I didn't watch it, so I'm not familiar with the character that he played on there. But this Bubba character, it just felt, I don't know, it just felt like.
Well, I think this is an issue with
done in some way.
I think this is an issue with all. I don't know what you'd say, average, intelligent people playing mentally challenged people. I don't know what the proper things you say are, but just a, I don't want to say normal, but you know what I mean. There's always going to be problematic because it's weird. It always ends up being a little bit funny. And it shouldn't be. We shouldn't be laughing at these people, but we always do because it's the person's not like this, and they are acting. It's like doing an impression of a black person or something. It's it's stupid. It's not appropriate, and it's always going to be played for laughs in some way.
Yeah, so if this movie was, I don't even know how I would change it, because it does do a nice job of it makes you instantly hate this group of this posse of vigilantes, which I know is the
works.
idea.
That's the point.
That's the idea.
And
is you're oh, I want these guys to just get destroyed now. And so it works on that level. But it was just, I think it was the scene, mainly like the scene where they chase him down and they find him and they do realize he's like hiding. It's an actual scarecrow in the middle of this field and he's like inside of it.
Yeah.
It was just weird and like sort of upsetting to me. But anyway, it's we can move past that. But like from a story standpoint, it does work. Yes. And you like kind of spend the rest of the movie wanting to watch these guys like get their comeuppance. And so Charles Pappy O'Danon is like the lead kind of like piece of crap bad guy that like
and this dude is like top to bottom, like from minute one, he's just disaster. Like the first time you see him, he is looking through binoculars at Bubba and this little girl playing, and he has this look in his face is of a man that drinks evil juice every morning for breakfast.
And it's not even just like it felt creepy. Like he's like watching this little girl with binoculars. Like, did you get a weird vibe from that? Because I was like, who the hell is this guy? I was like, is that her dad? And you find out, no, he's just this local mailman guy.
He's got binoculars and he's wearing like a hat that Dr. Livingston would wear.
It's like a safari.
It's a safari hat, but
it looks like it's made of like some like metal or
hard
something.
Plastic.
Yeah,
it's like hard plastic, and it's a mailman's outfit. So it's like, oh, this guy's a mailman, and you're like, okay. And then he goes and he rounds up a posse, and he basically like, what happens is there's a guy. He goes to tell this guy, hey, he's out there with this girl. You know he's gonna hurt her. And this dude's like, we got to go get him. And the mailman's like, no. He's like, there's nothing we can do. No one's going to stop him. No one's going to believe us. He's like, just give it time. We'll see what happens. So
just let it, like, basically from his point of view, he's like, no, just let him murder the girl. Then we'll get to do something. Like, he's dying to hurt this unfortunate guy who's like done nothing wrong. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah. So then the little girl gets hurt by a dog, and Bubba actually saves her. But it's at first it's not. It's only reported that Bubba has hurt this girl, or whatever. And so basically, they get their guns. They round up a posse. Like they just like they're like get on this big old truck, and it's like it's basically like Dukes of Hazzard style. Like they're all jumping in the freaking back with dogs, and they got their rifles.
They're like, it is all too easy for him to find a couple of people to go after this guy with like guns. Like it was really easy for him to find his little crew.
It's funny. Like they all like basically like. They like pull up to one spot. A guy jumps on. He bangs the top of the truck to say we're ready to go. And then they pull up to the next spot. The new guy gets on. He bangs the top of the truck. They're like, let's go. And everyone's happy and like everyone's super excited. Like, oh, this is it. And they basically run this guy down with these dogs. They find the dogs take them back to his house where his mom is. And she hides them in the Scarecrow, basically. The dogs sniff their way over to the Scarecrow. And they unload bullets into the Scarecrow, and then immediately a call comes through on a walkie-talkie that says, "Hey, Bubba didn't do it. The girl's safe. Bubba actually saved her."
What a mix-up! Like because they didn't even need confirmation that this girl was actually hurt or anything. Like somebody was just like, hey, I heard that something might have happened to whatever her name is, Marley or Marilee. Hey, I heard something might have happened to Marilee. And he's like, let's get him. Like it's like immediate. They don't even have confirmation that she's actually hurt or what has happened. No, they just want to kill somebody. It's terrible.
They're ready to kill this dude. Now, there is a scene later on where they show where the mailman is living. And he lives in this boarding house. He's just like where it's like basically a retirement home, kind of, where there's all these old people live. And in his room, there's all this army stuff in there. And so I feel like that's like a nod of like, this guy, he is just trigger happy. Like he's just always at war. He's always trying.
Yeah, and you get the sense that he just is like dying for some kind of like
action
and standing and to be like seen as like an enforcer because he's a damn mailman. But he like acts like, first of all, he wears his mailman outfit everywhere. Like he doesn't go anywhere where he's not wearing it. And
no, he is wearing it all the time. It's his only outfit. He bought 7 of these things, like Steve Jobs and turtlenecks. And he goes to a closet. You don't see it, but he goes to a closet and he pushes a button. And all of the things come out, and he looks at each one, and he decides I'll wear this one today.
And his name is Otis. Let's just throw that out there. So Otis, yes, he on his first day at the postal service, he's stocked up on these. He's like, I need 15 of the concrete hats or whatever the hell it's made out of, and I need all this stuff. It made me think when I was watching this, like, did the United Postal Service know that? Like what this character was like, did they give authorization? Because I don't know if you're allowed to use, because they use the insignia and the logo and all that stuff, and he drives around a one of the Jeep like mail van thing or mail cars.
It's all very safari. Everything is safari themed.
Yeah, but I'm
just now realizing that the U.S. Postal Service thinks that they're on safari
because they wear.
He's got binoculars with him.
Yeah, he's got
everywhere he goes.
He's definitely looking for some action. Like he was turned away.
Packing.
He probably tried to go to Vietnam and was turned away or something. He's just like, I'm gonna kill some people. I don't care what it takes. And he stumbles upon Bubba.
He's like, if I can't be in the government's army, I'll be in the government's mail service.
That's right. But you got to think, after this came out, this character, somebody at the Postal Service high up was kind of like, what the hell is this? Who gave authorization for us to be in this thing? Because this character is a horrible person. But yeah, so Otis is he's not a good character. He's not good.
No, and it's at some point during the movie, there's even an accusation that he's a pedophile.
That's what I'm saying. When he was watching her with binoculars, that's the vibe I got immediately. Like, what the hell is he spying on this little girl for? This is weird.
Well, and he basically, I think that the Bubba's mom spreads around town that he's a pedophile. After the fact, after these next few scenes we'll talk about, and because there's another scene later where he's chasing her because he's trying to figure out who is stalking them, and he kind of confronts the little girl, and then this cop's standing there, and he's like, "Okay," and he protects the girl. Like, I think people in the town think that he is too. I think there's lots of stuff happening here that they don't really go into.
Is that stuff actually happening, or is it stuff that you're just adding additional layers of context?
No, because the mom says to him, people talk. I know what you're doing with that girl, and people talk. And so basically, I think she's spreading around stuff. And here's why: because they all go to court. The 4 guys go to court, and they, for some reason, get off easily. No question.
Easily.
Like this judge is on his way to the Supreme Court. Like, this guy is a villain for sure. And he lets this guy off. He just says, "Hey, there's no evidence. It's just like he said, she said. What are you gonna do? Hey, this guy, So
did you say this earlier? I can't remember if you said it or not. But after they kill Bubba, they shoot him a whole bunch of times, not like once or twice, a bunch, all 4 of them.
No, like 20 times or something.
Pappy O'Dannon, Otis, mailman Otis, takes a pitchfork or like a hay. What are the things? Is it like a hay?
A pitchfork.
Yeah, the one with a bunch of prongs.
A hay bale?
Not like a devil's pitchfork that has 3 prongs on it. Like a
hay bale or whatever. Hay bale or whatever.
Yeah, one of those handheld tools, whatever it's called.
I think they know. I think you could say pitchfork and everyone knows.
Okay. And he puts it in Bubba's hands. Bubba's dead, but he's still like standing upright because he's in a scarecrow thing. and he puts like this pitchfork in his hands so as to make the case that like, hey, he was attacking us with this thing, so we had to shoot him 49 times.
So they get off. You know, the court, the judge lets them off, and then the mother is just screaming like, there's, you'll get yours. There's more justice than legal. There's more justice than the law. She's alluding to there's some kind of greater, karma that they will run into.
Yeah, my deceased son.
Yeah,
is gonna somehow murder you all.
One of my favorite little scenes in this is they're confronting the prosecutor's confronting them, and he's trying to say, if I ever find a single shred of evidence, I'll see every one of you on death row. And then Otis looks at his watch and he says, oh, I'm sorry, am I keeping you? You got somewhere to be? And he goes, oh, well, it's Tuesday night and Miss Bunch will be having fried chicken over at her diner. And everyone's laughing and laughing and laughing or whatever.
That makes you even like them less because they come out of court after their charges were somehow thrown out, and they go and start partying and laughing and having a hell of a time immediately.
They go to this bar, and the first thing you hear him say, fried chicken. I thought he was going to drop his teeth. Fried chicken. Like, that's the funniest thing they've ever heard in their lives.
Oh, God.
And this is
upsetting. Like, you're like, oh, my God, this was just... Like, they were just completely let off for no reason.
And this town that they live in is, like, classic town. Like, there's, like, 4 houses... and they're all 10 miles away from each other. There's a little downtown area where there's like some bars and, some old graffiti from who knows where, because there's no street toughs who live in town. And there's like a feed and grain place and a mechanic, and that's all 10 miles away from each other. And it's like the desert, but also there's, I guess it would be like, middle America, like Oklahoma kind of stuff. Although they're calling it the Deep South. I don't know. It seems a little dusty for Deep South to me.
Do they say where it takes place? I can't remember.
No, it just says, on this thing, it just says in the Deep South in Wikipedia. I think that's someone just coming up with it. This is more like Oklahoma, because it's real, dusty and stuff. Like if this is Georgia or something, you're not going to see dust. You're going to see orange mud and stuff like that.
There's no dust in Georgia?
No, it's going to be like clay and stuff. There's like lots of all the dirt down there is like orange and stuff. Like it's not like this is like
it doesn't sound like you know what you're talking about. All the ground down there is just orange.
People who live in Georgia know exactly what I mean by orange.
Do they?
Orange
and you actually have family down there, don't you?
I do.
Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't question you. I don't have any family. I have a good friend that lives in Atlanta. I'm going to message him and ask him, what color is the earth around you? And if he doesn't say orange, you're going to hear from me about it.
I'm an expert on Georgia agriculture.
Really?
Yeah. And that let's go off in a 15-minute tangent on that. If you don't mind.
I think we probably could, but I'm going to say no. Let's just keep pressing forward.
So the first instance of kind of supernatural, like what's happening here, is the little girl keeps hearing from Bubba. Like she keeps kind of seeing his presence and hearing her, but you don't ever see him or hear him. But you can tell that she is getting a sense of him, and so she finds out that they killed him, but she still talks to him and stuff, but like you don't see much of that. You just kind of see it like on the periphery. It's kind of confusing.
You don't see any evidence at any point that he's the one doing this.
You at the very end you do, but not until the end.
The very, very, very end, which we'll get to that because that confused me a little bit totally. But
so basically now we know that Bubba is going to somehow get justice against these four guys, right?
Yeah.
And the first guy who, throughout this whole thing, has been working with his wood chipper. Okay, he's been chipping branches.
That's not.
He's been
no foreshadowing there.
This is this guy's whole life. Is this wood chipper? Like he doesn't do anything but chip wood.
And if he's not chipping a mulch company or something.
If he's not chipping wood, he's sharpening it. Like that's his life.
He likes his wood chipper. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, it doesn't make him a bad person. The fact that he brutally murdered a developmentally handicapped guy is what makes him a bad person. Not the fact that he likes his wood chipper, okay? So let's just...
he's a chipophile. Let's just say that. So he while he's fixing up his stuff, he notices that there's a scarecrow in his farm, but he's not farming anything. So why would he put up a scarecrow? And he looks out there and he finds out that the scarecrow from Bubba's that they killed is back and he's in their yard. So he thinks it's a prank. He goes back. They meet up with he meets up with Otis and all the guys to talk about, and Otis is like, why are you guys coming to me? I thought I told you never to come here because now people are going to think something. They got off on this case, but there's still a chance they could go back. I guess double jeopardy doesn't apply.
Well, they didn't actually get charged.
Oh, I guess
the first
that's right.
time.
They were just in that first part.
And they had been threatened by the prosecutor. Remember, like, if I find anything, I'm going to get you all, like, put on death row. So I'm going to...
Yeah.
So he's nervous that, like, we got to stop being seen together. We got to stop, like, being kind of grouped up. It makes it look like we're all, like, in cahoots.
This is a feature of all kinds of movies where people kind of kill someone. Like either accidentally or like vigilante, and then there's like a bit of regret. There's always like one or two characters who are like freaking out, like they can't control their emotions, and someone ends up inevitably having to kill them too. Like that happens in all these kinds of movies.
And that definitely happens in this one. Yeah, there's one character that just comes completely
unglued. Yeah. So this guy, he goes back to they basically tell him like, hey, don't worry about it. That's not what it is. It's not Bubba. It's just something. He tries to blame it on the prosecutor. So he comes back. He finds out. He goes to the farm, but the scarecrow is no longer on the actual sticks that you hold up a scarecrow with.
What? Yeah, he's gone. I swear he was here. Like, okay.
So then he goes back to his barn. He hears something in the barn, and he's scrounging around. He's looking for him, and while he's up in the attic looking for him, something turns on the wood chipper, and he falls into the wood chipper. And this is my favorite death of the whole movie because he falls into a wood chipper.
This was great. I will say this. What you're about to say, I know what it is, and it is a great little clever thing they do.
This is not. This is not a movie. This is not a a movie in theaters. So this is going to be heavily censored. So you never really see the death. He falls into the chipper. All you see is kind of like the light swinging where he fell. You hear it, and then they cut to the next morning. Otis is down at breakfast, and someone is splattering red preserves on a plate.
Jam, yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's perfect. It's like a perfect cut. Like this is like, man, this was a freaking network movie.
Yeah,
And
it's
by the way,
obviously like.
Can we talk about what they're eating?
What was it? I don't remember now.
This is the freaking grossest. Like, I mean, it's just a normal bacon, eggs, pancakes, biscuits, everything. I mean, this lady who cooks them like a buffet style meal with like a million things on it, like 30 pancakes. There's 5 people at this table.
Well, doesn't every
and there's a big plate. There's a big, massive plate of over easy fried eggs that are just sloshing around.
They're like all liquidy and gelatinous looking.
Yeah. And he's just like shoving a spatula and it's just like it's so gross. Anyways, he finds out. Oh, so then he heads over to the house.
He finds out that one of their fellow murderers has been like in an unfortunate accident. Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically every step of the way, he gets a kind of feeling like obviously he knows something's up, but he keeps trying to deny that there's something happening. But
he keeps trying to convince himself that these are just, each thing that happens is like, oh, that was flukes. An accident, and it just like, that's explainable by this and that. Even though you can tell he's starting to get kind of wigged out himself about, oh crap, what's going on? And they think they immediately start thinking that the prosecutor is doing it, like he's apparently just decided to become a murderer himself, and he's like killing all of them, and then they start thinking it's Bubba's mom, and they're just trying to.
Well, like that's the thing. Like there's this kind of order where it's like it starts with, like he's like, oh, the prosecutor's pranking you. Then they think like, oh, the mom is doing the stuff, but then they think it's the little girl. Like at one point he thinks it's the little girl, and that's where all the kind of pedophile stuff comes in, because he's like chasing the girl around and trying to get her to talk and stuff. And then they kind of think like, oh, maybe it is Bubba, so they have to go to the grave site to like to bury, like dig him up. But before that, Philby,
hold on.
One of the other
you
characters,
just really glossed
Philby.
Over that. You said they. Because then they have to go to the gravesite and dig up this guy that they murdered.
Let me get there. Let me get there.
All right, go ahead.
So the next death happens. Philby, who owns the feed and grain. Now the other guy,
this one creeped me out.
The other guy was all day just working on his little chipper. He just loved that little chipper. This guy, what he loves to do is he loves to fill up his grain silo.
As you do.
He just fills that thing up, and he likes to pour it out for people who come through, but he just fills it up all the livelong day. So guess what? He gets trapped.
I think you created some backstory in your own mind about what his life is like.
Yeah. Old Philby feeding grain.
Old Philly silo man. Yeah, he's great.
So, of course, he gets trapped inside his silo, and the grain turns on, and now he basically chokes to death in his corn, his dried corn.
Yeah, he's buried alive. He goes in the corn silo, which is empty when he goes in there. He goes in there to hide from what he thinks is somebody that is somewhere around his house, like doing something, stalking him, trying to get him. So he's hiding. So he goes in there, locks this little door that he has to crawl through to get into it, and then he can't get out. And then, as you said, the grain thing turns on. Again, just like the chipper, we don't know how it turned on. We don't know how this like grain elevator thing turned on, but it starts pouring into this silo that he's in. And it's that creeps me out. That creeps me out. It's just the idea of like
just
being buried, like
choked to death. Yeah,
horrible.
Buried alive, basically. And so then he this is when he confronts the mother. And basically he's trying to get the mother to admit, that she's doing stuff. She ends up having a heart attack while he's like confronting her. And so then he turns on the freaking oven in her house, and it burns down, and so to make it look like the house burned down from a leaky stove.
Okay, couple things here. If you're like, we have this character. This is Otis, by the way. We have this character, this mailman, that won't take off his mailman costume.
No, not for 1 second.
He stalks this little girl and this like mentally handicapped guy. He hunts him down. He murders him. He laughs about it and eats fried chicken, and he's all excited. He eats the world's grossest eggs. Like, there's nothing good about this guy, so you think he's probably as bad as it gets. But yes, exactly what you said. He breaks into the house of the mother of the guy he murdered. He scares her to the point where she has a heart attack and either dies or is dying, one or the other. And then, to cover it up, you said he sets the house on fire. That's an understatement. He blows the freaking house up. Blows it up. The explosion is so large that I'm like, that's absurd. It's like a nuke. And he does it by like the fireplace is on, and then he turns the gas on. He turns the gas on the oven on. And it takes about 4 seconds before there's so much gas in the house that, I mean, it explodes. It looks like a massive, massive bomb has been dropped on this house. It's almost like comically large fireball that comes up out of the top, as it blows up. It's just like, oh my God, I could not have hated this guy anymore. It's just the worst person on earth.
Well, get ready. So then, the last guy, Skeeter, who just loves working on cars.
I forgot that was his name.
So Skeeter is like, he's like freaking Gomer Pyle, right? Like, but he's just like that classic, like, he's got big, bulky teeth. He's wearing this like polka dot hat.
Yeah, his hat is
just
very
like,
upsetting.
Skeeter, Skeeter. He talks just like his name sounds, right?
He's not as smart as the name Skeeter would lead you to believe.
No. Now he's the guy who he's like, look, I'm going to turn myself in because I don't want to die. So he's losing his mind. Otis is like, you know what? If this is Bubba, then we'll go to his grave. We'll dig it up and you'll see that Bubba's still in there. And then it is him or whatever, right? So
because Skeeter is convinced that Bubba's not dead. I think if I remember,
yeah.
So that's how we're gonna prove it. Is we're gonna go to the graveyard and dig this damn guy up.
So he goes to the graveyard in his postal service outfit. He doesn't think
he's got
change.
20 of them. He can just put on a fresh one when he gets home.
And, at least put an apron on or something. I don't know. So he gets it. They start digging up this thing. I mean, they digs up this thing. They find the coffin. They open up the coffin. Boom. Inside, Bubba's in there. Skeeter loses his mind. And Otis, he runs away. Otis chases after, stops him. And he's like, look, I'll do whatever you want to do. I'll go to the police, whatever you want to do. Let's just go fill the grave back up. Let's just do so no one sees anything. And we'll get it all set up. So he goes down there, and while Skeeter is down there, Otis picks up his shovel and bangs him in the head as hard as he can. And then he lifts the shovel up, and the hat, the red polka dot hat, is stuck to the shovel.
Oh,
which is another, that is so brutal. That means he hit him so hard that blood and guts, stuck to the hat, to the freaking and bled through into the shovel.
Let me reiterate. This aired on CBS.
Yes.
On CBS. America's Network. Or whatever they call it.
Dark Night of the Scarecrow. Bubba's the man who gotta see.
If I had a Dark Night Scarecrow. If I had a Dark Night Scarecrow. That's a callback, what I'm doing there.
In the field, the scary field, the Scarecrow seeks revenge. There we go. That was pretty good.
That was great. Solid.
So then, now for those of you don't know, the They Might Be Giants did a version of that song. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for that additional context. Because people are
So then he buries him in the freaking grave, and he gets... Now, the one thing that they kind of hint at is that he is a recovering alcoholic. But after this, Otis is, and after this happens, he starts drinking again. So he starts drinking, and he's driving home, and he sees Mary Lee alone in the middle of the road. And he chases her down with his van and starts chasing her into a pumpkin patch. And then he catches up to her. He accuses her of masterminding all the murders, which is insane. And then all of a sudden a plowing machine behind them, a big bulldozer, starts up.
What?
And starts chasing him.
Why is Mary Lee it's the middle of the night? Why is she out there?
Because remember, she keeps hearing from Bubba, and they play together. They play together at night.
Creepy.
And so this part is... Okay, so this part is... I like this part, but it is a little hokey for sure. So
extremely,
this bulldozer starts following him, chasing him. And this bulldozer is moving at, 1 mile an hour. and he's just like, oh, and he's trying to run from it, but he can't. He decides he can't run left or right. He can only run straight into the path of the bulldozer.
All I could think of was that scene in Austin Powers where the steamroller is coming and the guard is going, no!
Yeah.
And he's like, no! And then they cut to a wide shot and the steamroller is like 50 yards away from the guy and he's just standing there going, no! The whole time until it eventually runs him over. That's what this is like. Yeah, Pappy O'Danon from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Is just running through this field. And at any point, if he stepped 3 or 4 feet to the left, 3 or 4 feet to the right, the thing would have just passed him on by.
Yeah.
And instead, he's just running straight, staying in its path, and it's just gaining on him.
And he ends up, he keeps looking back to make sure. And at one point, he looks back, and he runs into the Scarecrow holding the pitchfork that Otis planted in his hands, and he's impaled on the tines, they're called.
There you go.
And he is wounded mortally, and he dies. And then Marilee, who has been hiding in the pumpkin patch, hears the footsteps approaching. She looks up to see Scarecrow.
This part is...
The Scarecrow's looking down at her and smiles, and then it bends down, gives her a flower, and she says, "Thank you, Bubba." And then she says, "I have a new game to teach you called the chasing game." So now my question here is...
what does that mean?
Well, she taught him different games, like how to... games, but she taught him how to sing the flower song and make a flower wreath and all this stuff. So, but what I don't understand is, does she... So here's my guess, right? Maybe she is masterminding this stuff. Maybe she is like helping Bubba. Like maybe she hides up in that little trunk up in the attic of the barn, and then Bubba turns on the chipper.
What?
Because he goes up into the attic to hear, because he hears something up there, and he hears something getting into this little chest.
And the idea is that this is his spirit doing all this.
Well, okay, so he's definitely dead, and he's definitely involved. My question is, I wonder if she is also helping him, or if she's just innocently she just wants to play with Bubba, and after he kills, she just plays it with him again, or is she actually helping him?
I don't know, because this end part was so weird. In the scene where you see the Scarecrow, and he she's there, the Scarecrow's there, and the Scarecrow's looking down at her, and he turns his head, and he has a smile or something on. Is so creepy. It's almost like the creepiest part of the movie, and it's not supposed to be.
No, the two scariest parts of the movie. There are two very specific scary parts, and they're only about a second each. It's when they both involve seeing the Scarecrow. The first time you see the Scarecrow, when you can see his eyes in the Scarecrow,
actually is harrowing. That's part of what upset me when I watched this. It's you see how mortified he is right when he's about to get murdered. He's
and then
I agree with that.
And there's that scene, and then at this end here where the Scarecrow is talking to the girl. The Scarecrow is the scariest thing. If there's one thing that this movie is missing, in my opinion, it's I would have liked to see the Scarecrow more, because that would have been scary.
I agree. That's what I mean. And they did that intentionally so that during all these deaths, the bad guys being picked off one by one, you don't see the Scarecrow doing any of it. Which is
right, and
it's like if
you don't know.
Friday the 13th happened, and you never saw Jason, but you just knew there was a kid that drowned at this camp, and then we think it's him, you never saw him. It takes something away from it.
And they don't want you. I think the whole time they want you to suspect other people the way that they are, because
maybe these are just mistakes that are just
You never see anything happen. You don't see the chipper turn on. You don't see someone push a button. You don't see the person going to the attic. You don't see the person locking the grain door. You don't see the person turning on the grain. The only time you ever see anything happen is at the very end when the bulldozer turns on, you actually see the shifter turn by itself.
Yes.
And that's when you realize, oh, this is the ghost of Bubba doing this thing.
I guess.
I wish we would have seen more Scarecrow.
Bubba's spirit is like very highly like capable of pulling all this crap off, apparently. Like it's just really
the spirit. He's a ghost. You can do whatever you want when you're a ghost.
Is that true?
Yeah. And also he has. If you look at the picture of the cover of the movie, just look up Dark Knight of the Scarecrow online. You'll see the poster. That is what we're talking about. Like that picture is really. This looks like a Halloween movie. Like it looks like a poster from a scary movie in the 80s. Like this movie if you would see the only thing different between this movie being a TV movie and being a theater movie is that in the theater movie you would have seen the deaths happen.
Yeah, and
That's
I want to see the movie that I thought I was going to be watching when I saw this poster or this cover like you're talking about. Like this looks cool. So if you look up, like you said, if you look up Dark Knight of the Scarecrow and you'll see this cover come up and it's got the Scarecrow and he's pointing the tines of the it's cool looking. It's scary looking.
It's an awesome.
This is not what
painting.
I thought I was getting. It's
You
a
mean
little
the
bit
movie
different.
is not-
And I'm
yeah.
upset who Vincent Price, who I love. One of my favorite movies ever is a Vincent Price movie. There's a quote from him at the bottom that says, "Marvel us. I was terrified." Vincent Price. And it doesn't say marvelous. It says Mar-Vel-us. Marvel us. I was terrified. Vincent Price. And I'm like, was Vincent Price sorely in need of money at this point in his life to say this?
What does that get you? Like $100?
It gets you something. Gets you chicken for dinner.
If you look up reviews of this, I couldn't find like reviews from the time period. All I could find is like people talking about it now, and everyone seems to.
That's why I don't trust them.
For the most part, everyone, all the horror nerds seem to like this movie, which horror nerds are more forgiving than most people, but. The stuff they say, I agree with, and this did kind of. Since this movie, there is a kind of subgenre of killer scarecrow movies, and you can thank this movie for that.
Yeah, it is credited with creating that genre. Like, it kind of surprised me when I read that there had never been a horror film before this where the Scarecrow was. Seems like kind of a no-brainer, but this is apparently the movie that. Set that all in motion. It's the first one to do it.
So this is interesting. So the guy who directed the movie, his name is Frank De Felitta. He wrote a book called Audrey Rose, which is about a couple confronted with the idea that their young daughter might be the reincarnation of another man's child.
What? Wait, say that again.
Okay, a couple confronted with the idea that their young daughter might be the reincarnation of another man's child.
Okay, so somebody else's child died, and it was reincarnated as this couple's kid.
This couple's young daughter.
That's just how.
Says,
them's the breaks of reincarnation. Then it's my kid now. You don't get to have a claim to it just because you.
And it says the book was inspired by an incident in which De Felitta's young son began displaying unusual talents and interests, leading an occultist to suggest to De Felitta that the child might be remembering a previous life.
Well, okay.
Apparently, there's also a movie. About it.
So to your point about killer scarecrows, which I will go back to something I said earlier. I do want to make sure that nobody is confused. The Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz doesn't kill anybody. But, in case you'd forgotten, but there's actually a page on IMDb called Scary Killer Scarecrow Movies. And there's a bunch of them. So,
yes.
Some examples, number one on the list is Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. And they each have like a sentence of like plot summary. So the plot summary for this one is Bubba the Scarecrow kill bad people. Ole. That's what it says. I don't know what the ole part means. And I think the typo, instead of saying Bubba the Scarecrow kills bad people, I think is like a really cheap joke that whoever wrote that is trying to make it at Bubba's expense. But anyway, so some of the other ones, you got Night of the Scarecrow. Not Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, but that's an evil warlock possesses a scarecrow and starts killing people. You have Hallowed Ground, an evil spirit animates a scarecrow and starts killing people. They're all kind of the same thing. There's one that is Scarecrow Slayer, good scarecrow versus bad scarecrow, enough said. That's the plot for that one. There's one where the plot is evil scarecrow kills kids. There's one where it's demonic scarecrow kills kids.
Love it.
So it's not the most nuanced genre in the world. I do want to watch one called Scarecrow, which is not a great title, but it's a Japanese horror film, and the plot summary is Japanese scary scarecrows. That's the plot summry. I'm like, okay, I'll do that.
By the way, there is also a sequel to this movie that came out this year. But
this movie?
Of Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, yes.
Which came out in 1981, again on CBS.
Yes, and this movie, I haven't seen it, and it looks like it was just some like low budget film that everyone hates. But yeah, so you can watch it. Now, before we go, I want to hop back to this Audrey Rose because I'm loving some more of these details. You ready?
Sure.
So here is the poster for the movie version of Audrey Rose. The tagline is Audrey Rose, born 1959, died 1964, born 1964.
Oh my God, that's good.
Love it. But then also there's a sequel called a sequel novel called For Love of Audrey Rose, written again by Frank De Felitta, and it says here he gives a little bit more details on his son's strange and unique talents. De Felitta claimed that For Love of Audrey Rose was inspired by his son's sudden piano playing talent.
Creepy.
Oh my gosh.
My son's never been talented in anything, so I knew something was up when he suddenly could do stuff.
All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning into our Halloween extravaganza. 4 nights, 4 weeks of Halloween scares and treats and tricks. Enjoy. Have a safe Halloween. And for a couple of more tricks and treats, head to networkspecialpodcast.com, where you can find all of our links to download more episodes. And catch us out on all of our social medias. And in your name we pray. Amen. Which is what we say at the end of every episode.
Is it? At least we're going to now. All right.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.